Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. You might want to go grab you something to drink, sit down, find something that you want to grab and scream into because we're fixing to cover biblical gender roles. This time, is marriage worth bothering with? It's going to be one of those videos. Stay tuned. Okay guys, so I have my Kindle set up with the article in front of me. I've got pages and pages of notes because it's BGR. I've got a vape with fresh batteries and I'm trying not to scream because my husband's asleep in the next room. But this one's a hard one, guys. This one's gonna be a hard one. And that's saying something because it's BGR. I've covered a couple of hard ones. So, is marriage worth bothering with? He posted this on July 21st, 2019 on his blog. And we're going to read the quote he opens with. So, is marriage worth bothering with? I'm surrounded by mediocre marriages. I don't see anyone, or at best, very few, who have a marriage that I would want to have. My sister has been married a short time, and she tells me how hard it is. And it seems like so much difficulty with so little reward. This was posted by someone with the screen name Anglo-Saxon. And so BGR pounces on it. And he starts off with his whole, this generalizes most men in the modern Western countries. This generalizes most people in modern Western countries, okay? I'd gotten to a point before I met my husband where I asked the question whether dating was worth it anymore. I wasn't going to date. I had literally just made up my mind. I'm going to wait until my kids are older or even until my kids are grown. I'm not going to date anybody. And literally like 3 days later I met my husband. Yeah, thank you, fate. But yeah, like that's a human thing. When you look around and you see things that are going on, you as a human ask that question. That's just not men, that's men and women. That's men, women, whatever gender you decide you are. That is the question you ask. Okay. That's just a small bit. Anyway, so he goes on and talks about historical marriage. This is another point that starts driving me crazy with BGR. So BGR claims that men sought out marriage throughout history of the world to find companionship that they could not find in other men. So they did not seek out women as equal partners, but rather they sought out women for things male companionship could not give them, such as they looked to women for the ability to be able to provide and protect them. They sought out women for their visual and physical pleasures that they could provide. They also sought out women for bearing children, plus men sought out women for domestic needs in the home while they were out in the world. Okay, let's talk about historical marriage. Historical marriage is a male concept. That was not something that was in the Bible. That is a man-made concept. That is a man-made concept for property. That is a man-made concept for power. That was not anything to do with love or families or anything like that. That was a man-made concept for power and property. Then people started wanting to marry for love. That was also a man-made concept. You got to marry the person that you wanted to be with because you loved that person. What he is stating is not a historical version of marriage. What he is stating is men sought out women because they wanted to have somebody to sleep with. They wanted to have children. And you couldn't do that with another man. I mean, you could sleep with another man, but you couldn't have children with another man. Okay. So again, BGR is wrong. But moving on, because there's so much more. And he kind of stays stuck on this about the historical marriage. And then he moves on to, but the entire dynamic of marriage was upended with the 19th century because of feminism. No, marriage is still practiced today. I'm married. BGR's married. A lot of people are married. Didn't end with feminism. Things just changed because women got rights and things changed. But he says that it was upended with feminism because now, in post-feminism times, even though feminism still goes on today, but in post-feminism times, women do not seek out men to provide and protect them. He states that women are seeking men for friendship or for someone that makes them laugh. Is there something wrong with liking the person that you're married to? Is there something wrong with finding other aspects of that person that you want to be with? I mean, if you have to be married to somebody, like, okay, BGR's whole thing is marriage. Okay, if you have to be with somebody, don't you want to like that person as well? You spend a lot of time with that person. You need to be able to not only love that person, but also like spending that time with that person. My husband is one of my best friends. I say one of my best friends because I also have female best friends. But I also know that I can talk to him. He does make me laugh. I enjoy spending time with him when he's not aggravating the holy loving hell out of me. But he does that in a playful way where we joke and we laugh and we have fun together. That makes a happy marriage, and a happy marriage is a lasting marriage. Isn't that what you're trying to get people to do? Okay, moving on. And then he starts whining even more. He says that today women do not enter marriage to give their husbands sexual pleasure, bear children, or serve their needs in the home, but states that they come into marriage to be served by men. I didn't enter marriage to be served by my husband. I entered marriage so that me and my husband could work together to further our family. I don't see where I serve him or he serves me. We work as a team and we help each other. It does not do any good for one person to be above another. When you have one person above another, there's always going to fit that one person that's below the other person is always going to feel like I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy enough, which is going to cause those problems that eventually do lead to there being fights and discontention, and that will lead to a marriage breaking up. If you work together and you're on the same page and you're working as a team, those fights and those problems are much less. Now, yes, every couple's gonna fight. Every marriage fights. My parents have been together for 38 years. They aggravate the hell out of each other, and yes, they will fight. But that doesn't mean they love each other any less. That's just people. People get on people's nerves. There are times that you just want to be by yourself, but you're married and you're in the same house, so you can't get away from the other person. But no. BGR thinks men are up here and women are down here. So, moving on. BGR believes that men have been robbed of their purpose and their desire in marriage. How? Even now, men still have to pull their weight in the marriage. It's just in this time, in this day and age, with the way the world is, things cost more. One person cannot pull everything. It does take two to do things. It takes two incomes to pay for things. If my husband was the sole breadwinner in this household, my husband would have to work at least 16 hours a day. He would have to work two full-time jobs. So he'd have to work 16 hours a day to cover our bills, to pay for everything that we have, which would cut down his time at home, which means he would not see me, he would not see his son. How is that being a provider, a protector, or whatever you want to expound upon, if he's never at the house? Then he goes on to quote former President John Adams, talking about if women are ever to be given rights, equal rights to men, that men would become depositisms of the petticoat, which means that they would be under women's feet. You got to take that with the times in which that was spoken. You can't take that one quote and put it now and be like, see, this is what's happening. No. And now if you want to have those views, get you a time machine, go back and live in John Adams' times, because that's where you belong, because you have those kind of garbage views. So then, let's keep on. BGR believes that since courtship was abandoned for dating, women have become dominant in the male-female relationship, and marriage as an institution has been severely disseminated. He said before the mid-19th century, divorce rates were at 3%. Okay, have you ever thought of why that was? Have you ever really dissected why that was? Before the mid-19th century, a woman could not bring a case in court without having the backing of a man. Also, if she did have said backing of a man, she would lose custody of her children automatically. They would go to the man. So if she was going in because she was being abused, why would she leave her children with the person that was abusing her? He goes on to say, as men gave more and more control to women over dating, marriage, divorce rates began to skyrocket and eventually peaked at over 50% by the mid-80s. That is because things changed. Women could start taking control over their lives. They didn't have to have, a man escort them out of the house. They could own property. They could have custody of their children. They could, work outside of the home. They could do these things. They could provide for themselves. So when they were being abused or when things turned bad in their relationship, they could say, you know what, screw this, I'm out of here. Me and my kids are gone. I've got a house. I've got a job. I'm taking my kids and I'm out of here. They would divorce that dude. They would be gone. It's not that hard to see why that changed. It is not rocket science here. Then he also says, he points out that women are the initiators of 70% of those divorces. Again, not rocket science there, bro. It's very easy to figure out. So, of course, this is a BGR article, so there are subtitles, sub-points for him or whatever. So his first one is, why is marriage worth bothering with? So he says, marriage is absolutely worth bothering with because God has commanded it. I want you to show me where, because if I remember correctly, and I probably do since it was pounded into my head and all those fire and brimstone sermons that I had to sit through, there were 10 commandments, and marriage was not one of the 10. I mean, murder, not serving other gods, those kind of things. Marriage was not in that list. Then he quotes 1 Corinthians 11:7 through 9. And hit the points that he wants to pull out of these, because he always boldens the points that he wants to pull out of the scriptures, is, let me first give you a synopsis. This is where it's talking about the man shouldn't cover his head because he's the image of God, but woman should cover her head because she's the image of man. He boldens, he is the image and glory of God, but the woman is the glory of man. And then in 9, he says, neither was the man created for the woman, but the woman was created for the man. So he starts pointing out his bullshit, okay? Let's just start there, because that's all this is. Well, let's think about this for a minute. Adam was created out of dust, but Eve was created out of bone. So who's actually made of sturdier stuff there, bro? He goes on with saying men were created in the image of God, and so they have God's attributes and human traits. BGR states that this is why men are leaders, providers, protectors to wives and children. So again, he's putting men here, women down here, like he always does. He said women were created in the image of man. So he states that this is the reason why women are helpers and companions, but also if you ever actually read that book you want to beat me down with because I'm a woman, BGR, Jesus was also a helper. So was Jesus a man or a woman? Oh yeah, Jesus was a man. Moving on. He says women are the weaker vessels, and then he quotes 1 Peter 3-7. Which states, likewise, husbands, live with your wives in an understanding way. Remember, BGR, understanding way. Showing honor to the woman. Showing honor as the weaker vessel, since they are heirs with you of the grace of life, so that your prayers may not be hindered. But again, Adam was created from dust. But Eve was created from a bone. So how is bone a weaker vessel than dust? Also, I want y'all to think about this for a minute, all you men that think you're so superior to all of us women. I guarantee you this, because I've delivered 2 children. Guarantee you this, you would not last 1 second in labor. Not one. You couldn't handle the pain. But we do it all the time. So who's the weaker of the 2? Because I guarantee you it's not us. Moving on. So then he goes on and says, so it is this reason that marriage is so much more than about your personal happiness or having fun. Again, why does everything have to be just so sucky? Okay? Everything, like I was raised Southern Baptist and everything was fucking hellfire and brimstone and you're going to hell. you thought something, you're going to hell, you had fun, you're going to hell. Why does everything have to be just so drear and dreary and just crappy and just duh? You should have fun. You should enjoy life. You should enjoy the people you're with. And in marriage, you should enjoy your companion. I don't understand why marriage is not supposed to be about your happiness or having fun. If the person I'm married to does not make me happy and I don't enjoy being with them, then I shouldn't be with that person. He said marriage is designed by God. Again, you have that wrong. Nowhere, anywhere is marriage designed by God. That was a human construct for property and for power. That's all. You have that wrong. Churches inserted God into the marriage ceremony so that they could get a piece of that pie. Point blank. So he says, marriage is a design of God. It is designed by God as an extension of his purpose for creating men. Again, no. He designed men as playmates. That's all. He got bored. Marriage is not about what you or I want. It is about obeying God's commandments. Again, marriage is not one of the commandments. A whole lot of the commandments are about not worshiping anybody but him, because he seems to have a, Napoleon syndrome. And then there's some stuff about, honoring thy mother and father, don't kill anybody. Again, he didn't put rape in there. That was a big one. Maybe you should have knocked off one of those, honoring him things and threw rape in there. But, hey, should have counted that as a rough draft and did it again. But, Moving on, he quotes Genesis 1:28. And this is where it says, and God blessed them, and God said unto them, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish in the sea and over the fowl of the air and over everything of that which moveth the earth. That is not a marriage ceremony, bro. That's when he's like, here's a garden. Even though I put this tree that I told you not to eat from in the middle of it and tempted the hell out of you, even though y'all want to say that's Satan, that is not Satan. That was God. Go, have fun. That is him literally saying, go have fun. But everybody wants to say you're not supposed to be having fun. He then goes on to quote Hebrews 13:4, which marriage is honorable in all and the bed undefiled. Okay. He said marriage is the rule. I thought you said it was a commandment. Would you make up your damn mind? Then he states that the only exception to this rule is like, okay, so it was a commandment, now it's been downgraded to a rule, and now we have an exception. You're starting to confuse everybody here. Is in 1 Corinthians 7:35, which is that ye may attend upon the Lord without distraction, which is where they give like the thing for the exception for priests, where it's like the celibacy rule. So he's saying that the only exception to marriage is if you're going to be celibate. But he said that's the only exception to the first commandment. Now the first commandment, again, is not marriage. Read your Bible. Anyway. So BGR then turns around and says, but celibacy is not for most people because they have a God-given, not joking here, God-given desire for intimate companionship. At least he finally decides to admit that people lust. That is not a God-given thing. Remember, that's one of those 7 deadly sins that everybody wants to preach about. Lust is not a God-given thing. Remember, y'all want to say that's from Satan? But you just said it was God-given. Got you there. And he said that only marriage can fulfill, which is a quote from then he quotes from 1 Corinthians 7:9, which he only segments one part from that, but if you read the whole thing, it says, but if they cannot exercise self-control, they should marry, for it is better to marry than to burn with passion. He only quoted, it is better to marry than to burn. So, I mean, he's all over the place here. So then we get down to his second point, which is the facts don't lie. Again, this is BGR, so he goes through and cherry picks shit out of some random studies. But this is the kicker for me. He admits to going around to some blogs, some atheist blogs and atheist YouTube channels that review his blogs. I wonder when he's going to get around to me. But he states that he finds that atheists will admit feminism and women's equality have major blows to historical institution of marriage. Well, one, I know you're lying, because every atheist YouTuber I've watched knows that marriage started out for property and power. Just putting that one out there. But 2, you don't quote anything. You don't quote a person. You don't quote a page. You don't quote anything. Then he states that atheists will say, they ask why we need marriage anymore. Here's another thing. Few of the ones that I actually follow and watch their content because I find it interesting, they give me ideas, are married, or have been married, or are in serious relationships leading up to marriage. So if they're asking that question, then why are they going through with that process? 2, he states that the atheists will say that marriage is no longer needed for a strong and stable society. No. What they say is marriage does not need to be in a church for it to be a, compatible type thing. You don't need a priest to bless your marriage for it to be a marriage. Again, he doesn't quote anybody. You don't know where he's getting this information from. My idea is he pulled it straight out of his ass like he does all this stuff. But anyway, then he starts to go on and state some studies. Again, he quotes Bradford Wilcox and Nicholas H. Wolfinger and the Hey Guys Put a Ring on It. And it says it supposedly shows a positive impact for marriage. Basically, they just talk about money and sex. They say that men after marriage show a transformative effect with their finances. They typically work harder, smarter, and more successful. Actually, it's kind of more, if you look at men after they're married, finances are more stable because usually the man and the woman are working, so they have dual income. So of course their financial situation is going to be more stable. I can't see how you're going to gauge if somebody's working harder. But anyway, then he says that men don't just enjoy a better sex life when married, they're also likely to enjoy better health. There have been studies on that. But they say that they live almost 10 years longer. I've heard 10, I've heard 5. The years change, so take that one with a grain of salt. Then it says, we've seen that For the average guy, when it comes to money, sex, and health, marriage offers certain significant returns on the sacrifice it requires. That's just a personal opinion. Just saying. Then he goes to this Robert Rector, and it's Marriage, America's Greatest Weapon Against Child Poverty. I have some issues with this. I know married families that are still way below the poverty line, mainly because of the minimum wage in the country. But he goes on to claim that child poverty principal cause is the absence of married fathers in the home. Okay, state some numbers. Give me some data to back up this claim. It says being raised by a married family reduces a child's probability of living in poverty by 80%. What's your study data here? Like, what numbers are you working with? How are you coming about this? So he says the effect of married fathers on child outcomes can be quite pronounced. Again, I need some context here. You're just throwing out random statements. He goes on to now single parent homes, there has been some studies on this. It says more than twice as likely to be arrested for juvenile crime. That has been something that's been studied and is continuing to be studied. Twice as likely to be treated for emotional and behavioral problems. Again, those things are in the works. Roughly twice as likely to be suspended or expelled from school. That's a toss-up, because even if you're married, if that's a bad home environment and the parents are not happy or they're fighting a lot, that kid's gonna act out. So again, like, even with the emotional and behavioral problems and suspended and expelled from school, if the home life's not bad, even if both parents are home, that's going to be reflected in that child. So those can be toss-ups there. A third more likely to drop out before completing high school. I'm sorry, like, there's a whole lot of kids that do that with both parents at home. I mean, my father did that, and both of his parents were married and at home. So you're kind of doing some stretching there. But he does another broad stroke. Well, the facts above show that married men make more money and are more successful in their careers. Broad strokes there, bro. Stretching too far. Lead healthier lives and their children are raised better. And again, broad strokes there. You can't just take these few studies and without any context behind them, without more research behind it, and draw these broad strokes. You just can't do it. It says both the Christian feminist and the atheist are wrong. Christian feminists are wrong by denying that feminism has decimated the institution of marriage, and atheists are wrong by saying it's okay for marriage to go away and that society no longer needs it. One, I haven't heard many atheists say that. Two, I don't see where feminism has exactly decimated marriage. What I have seen is bad marriages have decimated marriages. If you have been raised in a household where your parents refuse to get divorced because of some religious belief, you are less likely to get married. You are less likely because you don't want to live that life. So now we're going to close out with BGR's conclusions. BGR says that marriages are worth bothering with because it's God's commandment. So now it's back up to a commandment. It went from a commandment to a rule to there was an exception. Now it's back up to a commandment. he's confused. And he does make an admission in his conclusion. He admits that young Christian men marry because they are desperate to have sex. Which I'm glad he admitted that. But then he says that young Christian men should approach women and dating. Then he says it really should be courting with a great deal of scriptural knowledge of what marriage is about, and also prayer as well as discussion. They also should lean on their parents and other wise counsel to know if a woman is a good character and one who would make a good wife to them and a good mother to their children. But the main point is Christian men cannot give up on marriage even it takes many years to find the right woman. The search should be continual, even if it means a man saving money for many years and seeking a woman overseas from less westernized country or more conservative, mostly rural areas of Western countries. So he closes out his article with saying, if you can't find a woman that meets these standards here, save up money, go overseas to a poor country and buy you a wife. Again, I'm not shocked. It's biblical gender roles. He's a disgusting human being. But I'm just going to put this out here, okay? This is not my first marriage. No. I left a marriage that was extraordinarily abusive. And I did so to save my life and to save my children. Would I do it again? In a heartbeat. But this marriage is different for the fact that me and my husband can actually talk to each other. We actually like being around each other. We can joke, we can watch movies together, and we can have fun. We can also spend our time apart doing things that I don't have to worry. Is my husband cheating on me like I did with my ex-husband? My husband can go hang out with his friends. He goes and plays poker with his brother. Okay, cool, whatever. Go watch football, whatever. I go to work and work my job. I come home and I take care of things around the house. Take tonight, for instance. I went to work this morning, came home. Me and my husband worked together to cook dinner. Side by side in the kitchen, joking and playing, cook dinner together. It was great. It was fun. That's what marriage is supposed to be. You're supposed to like being around the person that you're with. You're supposed to enjoy time together. And it's what I prefer. I prefer being with him. I prefer having time with him. And then when we have our time apart, it makes our time together that much more special. Now, what do I think about his article? I think it's absolutely disgusting. It is full of false information that is just more Christian rhetoric that they like to press on. But if you want to be married, be married. If you don't want to be married, don't let anybody pressure you into being married. And don't listen to people about you have to be a certain way. Be yourself. Always be yourself. I have not changed who I am. And I told my husband when we were dating, I was like, this is who I am. This is who I'm always going to be. I'm not going to change who I am. And it's worked out for me. Anyway, guys, let me know down in the comment section, what do you think about this article? What what are your thoughts on marriage, and what are your thoughts on this disgusting display of advice. Give this video a thumbs up. Hit that subscription button if you haven't already, and ring the bell so that you're notified of every single time that I upload a video. In the description box down below is my Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and my email. If you come across an article that you want me to cover, go ahead and send it over to me, and if I do cover that article, I will shout you out in that video so that you know that I covered it and everybody knows that you sent it to me. Anyway guys, that's going to do it for today's video. I will see you on the next one. Bye for now.